This is the Community Compost Depot at Frey Gardens, and I'm the executive director of the nonprofit the Community Compost Depot Incorporated. It's a beautiful August day, and we have the cicadas making some noise in the background as our audience.
This is a busy neighborhood.
It is.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michael Bradlee. I'm the Executive Director at the Community Compost Depot Incorporated. We're a local nonprofit that works directly with communities to help them manage their organic resources, to both reduce trash and to make compost for both their garden and for potentially for sale. I'm here to talk to you today about the food system and managing food scraps at home and making the decision to save food scraps for composting rather than mixing them with the trash and burying them in the landfill. One thing to consider with our food system is that we take a lot of care in producing the produce that we buy, and we have specific ways of handling the materials so that they remain in good condition throughout the process. And what we'd like to do is extend that care from our food into our food scraps and make a conscious decision on how to reuse them, dispose of them in a way that's useful to us rather than something that's a liability. So we're at the Community Compost Depot at Frey Gardens next to Frey Florist and Greenhouse in Providence, Rhode Island. And this is our premier drop-off site where members of our program bring their food scraps, drop it off here, and then we compost right on site. We have over 400 people in our program, and together we've collected over 500,000 pounds of organics and composted them and returning them to local soils. We all have busy schedules, so the idea is to try to fit this in to our existing schedule, and I'd like to go over some simple principles that will help you to collect your food scraps at home, keep them in good condition, and not cause odor problems or attract pests, and then get those food scraps quickly to a composter. And so how do we get started? Well, for the homeowner, collecting food scraps begins in your home or wherever you get a meal. So if you have a takeout, that could be part of your food scrap collection, but also in your home, you'll want to have a system set up so that you could easily contain those food scraps and store them in a manner that will help the process along. So what we have are a few ways to contain the materials. Once we generate food scraps, I have a container in the freezer. We'll want to store them in something. And I'll show you a few different containers, but I'll tell you up front my preference is a simple resealable bag that can easily be stored in your fridge or your freezer and hold those food scraps for a certain period of time. You could also reuse a food storage container such as this. These are, of course, a rigid container, so there's less flexibility on where they can be stored. There's also kitchen countertop collectors. This one's nice. It has some perforation that does help the food scraps to breathe a little bit. This one's just pretty. And so when you collect your food scraps at home, each time you generate more food scraps, you add them to your kitchen collector, and you'd be storing that in your fridge, in your freezer, or the refrigerator portion. And then once a week, or when this bag is full, you can add that to your weekly accumulation pail.
Oh my gosh.
We'll just keep going. I'm gonna try that again.
Yeah, just that one part.
And so when your kitchen collector gets full, you can add that to your weekly accumulation pail. And this pail you should store in a cool place, such as a basement or porch, out of the sunlight, because it'll be stored at room temperature and you may be holding those food scraps for a week to maybe 2 weeks. The collection has a sealable lid so that it seals completely to try to keep out flies and not attract pests. Once this is full, you'll take this to your compost depot or to your own composter, and you'll drop it off in one of the receptacles. Here we collect food scraps in these totes, and then we wheel them to our composter. Or if you have your own home composter, you can take it right directly to it. This is an in-vessel composter that we actually design here. And a lot of people have this earthen vessel design, which is a very common design, where you would take your food scraps, you would mix them in the right proportion of leaves. So it's 3 parts leaves to 1 part food scraps. And you would always maintain that ratio to keep your composting in good shape. And something to remember is that composting is a process. So that means there's different stages and materials flow through that system. And at each stage, you'll need to know what to do with those materials in order to keep the process going. So we have some finished compost here. And what I like to do is set up my composting area. So I have a place for my raw materials, such as my leaves, that then I'll bring my food scraps and mix together. A place where I'm doing my hot composting, which would be contained inside a bin. And then a place to store my finished compost, which would be this material right here. And by having a space for each of those, you'll be able to flow those materials through the process from one stage to the next and always have a place for those materials to go. Something else to consider is the timely collection of our materials. We know that our food scraps we're collecting each day and each week, but we also have to consider when to collect our leaves and how to store them. We need to remember that the leaves, of course, fall in the autumn, so we'll have to plan to collect them during that time. Usually around here, it's late November, early December. And what you want to do is collect your leaves and store them in a container that you can then keep dry, either put a tarp over it or keep it in a shed somewhere so the leaves stay dry. When you mix your leaves with your food scraps, you want that dry blend of leaves to then complement that wet food scraps. And by doing that, you keep the right moisture balance and will maintain the composting in good shape. We have a couple more things that I'll talk about, and then we'll wrap up this video. So we're going to go back over to our table, and I want to show you one important request that we have as composters that we ask you to do at home. What we'd like you to do is, if you see vegetable stickers and you feel comfortable with a knife, to try to remove those vegetable stickers from your produce before you then process your produce and discard the scraps into your compost bucket. There are composting bags on the market. They're called bio bags. They look like plastic bags, but they would be labeled bio bags. I do have one I can probably grab and show you quickly. This is a bio bag, and these do compost. They're not so quickly at home. Your home composter sometimes doesn't get hot enough, but they will eventually break down. In our system, where we do commercial composting, these do break down. The last thing is having tools for your bin, having the right tools to mix your compost, because once you blend your food scraps with your leaves, you'll want to mix that every now and then. So we have 2 tools. This one is a auger that's really nice. It drills down in and you can pull that up. This one's more a plunger style, requires a little more exertion, and you know, can be a bit of a workout, but hey, it keeps you healthy. We do work with students and we do a lot of mentoring, so you always feel free to reach out to us and connect with us for the programs that we're running, or if you need tips or want to set up your own compost system, or if you're ambitious and would like to set up a community compost operation, we can help out with that. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope this helps you to get started in the right direction and enjoy your new experience in collecting food scraps. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. She just dropped a can and exploded. Okay.
It might be a while.
I know, right?
I'm gonna stop these.
Okay.